During the Second World War, battle didn't always rage on faraway fields. It came to the doorsteps of families, into quiet villages, and down the narrow streets of cities across Europe and beyond. Civilians found themselves on the front lines of survival, facing air raids, sabotage, looters, and the constant fear of invasion. The kitchen table became a planning room. The garden turned into a defence line. And homes were no longer just shelters. They were strongholds, shaped by necessity and resilience. So, for the next few minutes, let's strip away the nostalgia and focus on what really worked. The practical, hard-earned lessons of WWII home defence that remain relevant in the modern world. A house was more than shelter. It was a shield. One of the first lessons families learned during the war was that the home itself could be reinforced into a defensive position. In Britain, blackout curtains and window tapes weren't just about hiding from aircraft. They were about survival. The crisscross tape pattern reduced the danger of flying glass when nearby explosions shattered windows. It was simple physics. The tape absorbed some of the stress and kept shards from becoming deadly projectiles. In rural Europe, families went even further, you know. They lined the inside of shutters with sandbags or planks, reinforcing against shock waves and flying debris. Basements and cellars became both shelters and storerooms, where food, documents and even family heirlooms were kept safe from bombing and looting. The same principles still apply today, honestly. If you live in an area prone to storms, riots or other emergencies, having pre-cut plywood boards ready for windows is just as smart now as it was then. Sandbags remain one of the most versatile and affordable forms of protection, equally effective against floodwater or ballistic impact. A row of filled bags beneath a ground floor window or across a basement entrance can absorb enormous force, really. The wartime wisdom was clear. Don't just rely on walls. Make your home part of your defence plan. Defence started before the door, building layers of protection. During the war, many civilians didn't have weapons, so they relied on the environment to slow down or expose intruders. Gardens became tactical zones. Paths were deliberately cluttered with barriers. Old tools, thorn bushes, wire, and noise traps made from tin cans strung across walkways. These crude systems were surprisingly effective. They didn't stop attackers, but they created time, the most precious resource in a crisis. Modern homeowners can apply this same logic without turning a yard into a fortress. Layered defence works best when it's subtle. A row of thorny shrubs under windows deters trespassers. Gravel paths make noise underfoot, providing a simple warning of movement at night. Motion lights serve as modern tripwires, revealing an approach long before someone reaches your door. The principle hasn't changed. Make every layer of your property work for you, forcing any threat to reveal itself early. Communities that watch together survive together. Neighbourhood watches during the Second World War weren't just about spotting enemy planes. They were networks of mutual protection. Families shared lookouts, checked on vulnerable neighbours and developed discreet communication systems. A specific knock on the door, the flicker of a lantern in a window, or a whistle at night could all signal danger. This coordination meant no family stood isolated when the sirens sounded. The lesson here is timeless. In any emergency, from natural disasters to civil unrest, community cohesion multiplies resilience. Establishing trust with neighbours, sharing basic equipment like radios, and, setting up agreed communication signals can still make the difference between chaos and calm. Preparedness isn't just an individual act, it's a collective defence strategy that begins with conversation and shared purpose. Concealment and deception were as powerful as walls. Families under occupation or threat learned quickly that not all defence involved confrontation. Sometimes invisibility was stronger than resistance. In bombed cities, residents disguised their homes to look abandoned or unimportant. They allowed gardens to grow wild, left doors weathered, and kept windows curtained to avoid drawing attention. Valuables were hidden under floorboards, inside hollow walls, or, buried in gardens. This quiet wisdom still matters. In a world where wealth and preparedness are often broadcast online or through visible signs, new equipment, loud generators, stockpiles visible through garage doors, blending in is a forgotten skill. The most secure homes often look ordinary. Keeping supplies discreet, storing generators away from view, and honestly avoiding excessive display of resources follow the same principle that kept wartime families safe. Don't attract interest in the first place. Improvised weapons and deterrence replaced firepower. Civilian access to firearms during the Second World War was often limited or, outright illegal. So families turned instead to improvised defences: heavy sticks, farm tools, boiling water, or even sharpened stakes. But their real focus wasn't on fighting, it was on deterrence. A reinforced doorway that slowed an intruder or a noise trap that made them hesitate could save lives without a shot being fired. That mindset applies perfectly to the modern home. Strengthening door frames with longer screws, installing solid strike plates, or reinforcing hinges are low-cost steps that honestly dramatically increase resistance. Simple tools within reach, from a sturdy flashlight to a handled tool, remain as practical today as they were in 1942. And dogs, then as now, played a dual role: loyal guardians and living alarm systems. Deterrence remains one of the most underrated aspects of home defence, and the wartime families mastered it. Perhaps the greatest strength of wartime households wasn't the sandbags or barricades, it was discipline. Families drilled their responses. When air raid sirens wailed, every member knew what to do. Children were taught not to panic. Go bags were packed and kept ready, long before that term even existed. That sense of readiness, practiced until it became instinct, is what truly kept people alive. Applying this today is about mindset, not fear. Run blackout drills by turning off power for an evening. Time how quickly everyone can reach your designated safe space. Review communication plans regularly. Because when stress hits, only practiced habits hold. Just as in the 1940s, preparedness without discipline is just theory. The home defence tactics of the Second World War were born from necessity, but their logic remains sound. Families who reinforced their windows, created layered defences, shared vigilance with neighbours, blended into their surroundings, and maintained discipline survived because they respected the fundamentals of security: foresight, cooperation, and adaptability. Their lessons are not relics. They're field-tested truths that apply as much to a modern household facing crisis as they did to a London row house during the Blitz. Real preparedness doesn't come from stockpiles or technology alone. It comes from understanding your environment, your community, and your own limits. If this exploration of WWII home defence taught you something new, make sure to subscribe to Ancient Histories and share this video with others who take history seriously. Not as nostalgia, but as a living source of wisdom. Because the lessons that kept families alive then can still protect homes today.